What's up, everyone? It's Ben from GrapplingInsider.com. Today, I am happy to be joined by the current Who's Number One lightweight champion. He's also a IBJJF No-Gi World Champion, No-Gi Pans Champion, ADCC Bronze Medalist. He is also GrapplingInsider.com's 2023 Male No-Gi Grappler of the Year, period, I should say, Dante Leon. Dante, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So 2023 was a busy year for you. 2024 is coming up pretty hot with a Diego Pato Oliveira match coming up. Where are you at right now? Like, what's your training situation? What is your training camp looking like for this Pato match?
Training camp is pretty similar now. I feel like I got down as far as like my routine, as far as what I like to do, how I program it, things like that. So it's going pretty typical to the rest of my matches that I've had. Who's number one? It'd be my third time at 155 now, so a little more adept with the weight cut and the challenges that that weight class has. So feeling better and better each time I go in to do it. The only things that really change with the camps are the kind of like specifics of the opponent I'm going against. So Pato has a pretty unique game. He's very sub-only oriented. He attacks a lot of submission. So preparing for somebody like him is a lot different than preparing for a lot of the other guys in the division because he's much more aggressive, I would say, with his attacks. He's a good leg locker, has a high pace. So those are the only things that really change. Other than that, the programming of the camp is relatively always the same.
I love it. And you kind of touched on it here, but I want to jump right into it. Talk to me about, what else does Pato do good? Because it's easy to be like, oh, he has that Z lock and ADCC, he's a good leg locker or whatever. What else does he do well? Because obviously I would say, in my opinion, if we talk about top 2, 3 guys in 2023, it's you, maybe Marigali, and Pato is right there. So when you watch him, what does he do well?
He kind of does everything well. He's a good grappler. It's hard to really pick out an area that I think he's known for. Coming up through the ranks, he was known as a guy who had a really flexible guard. It was like super hard to pass. He would go in and win IBJJF opens like double gold when he was a light feather or featherweight. So he obviously has a very tough guard. He obviously has a lot of strength as well as dexterity to be able to, retain guard against the bigger guys. So I think the best thing about Pato, honestly, is everybody talks about his leg locks, things like that. He is a very good leg locker, but I think the best thing about him is just his ability to retain guard, his ability to fend off guard passes and things like that. He rarely gets into scenarios where he's put in danger. He really gets put into scenarios where guys get past his guard or put pressure on him. So yeah, I think that's kind of the best thing about his game. That's where all of his best attacks stem from. His guard work, his open guard play. So that's kind of where I see him excelling in the most. But everywhere else he's good. At No-Gi Worlds, he was able to get on top and pass a lot of pretty good guys. So yeah, he's kind of just a good grappler.
Yeah, he's super fun to watch, I would say as well. If you are on top, and you don't need to give away your strategy or anything like that, but how do you get past a guard like that who's notoriously unpassable?
I mean, passing his guard is no different than really passing anybody else's guard. I think it's just a little more challenging. He's probably more flexible. Probably has really strong legs. He has very short legs. He doesn't have much of a throw to be able to get a knee or a shin leg hook inside. He's a lot shorter than the majority of people I've competed against. So it's not easier for him to retain guard, but he doesn't really need a lot of space. So I don't think passing his guard is going to be anything that is otherworldly. Like, I will need some technique that I have to break out against him that I can't use or don't use against anybody else. I think it'll be a lot of the same shit that I typically do. I just think it might take some more time, or I just have to focus on being a little bit tighter in some of the positions just because his retention's so good and he's so short. He's going to be able to get limbs inside.
Man, that's interesting you bring up his size. I feel like a lot of people, if you see kind of the comments on this match, a lot of people are like, well, Dante's bigger, Dante's bigger. First of all, you guys both are going to fight at the same weight class. But also, like, I think you bring up a good point, right? Just you being kind of a guy who's competed at 170, 185 before isn't the end all be all of this match.
Yeah, I don't think so. He like I said, people don't know this as much, I would say, kind of in the like public's eye now. Now, this is back in like 2017, 2018 when he was a purple or brown belt and he would win double gold at opens. So he's able to, be against guys who are a little bigger. He's showed he's able to deal with guys who are probably like bigger, stronger, just have bigger frames than him. I'm not a substantial amount bigger than him on weigh-in day. But by the time the match happens, I'm going to be, probably like 15 to 20 pounds heavier than him. And that at that point, that becomes a weight advantage that can be, depending on the athletes, that can be really advantageous for me. That can be something that I can use really well. And but just 155 to compared to 170, on paper, the 170 guys that's the toughest division in the world. That's like my division. That's where I focused on the majority of my career was 170 and even 185. But the challenges of fighting the smaller guys, there are challenges there. I'm not a giant compared to them, even though I am a little bit bigger than a lot of them, or even though on match day I do get bigger, but they have a lot of challenges too. They move a lot, they scramble different, a lot of different guard play in there that you don't see as much at 170. So, a lot of the guys at 170, they're really dynamic, they're really athletic, but those guys at 155, they're kind of slick. So there's different challenges with that. And I think his like physical stature will pose its own issues as well.
What's up, everyone? Chances are, if you're tuning into this interview, you probably train in jiu-jitsu, whether it's in the gi, no gi, or both. I've been training for about 13 long years now myself, and when it comes to the gear that I like to use, I personally recommend Rev Gear. They have a premium gi that I love, they have an ultralight competition gi, they have grappling shorts, they even have rash guards that are pretty understated in design but still really sharp looking, high quality gym bags, even backpacks that can hold multiple gis. So basically just like everything you would need for BJJ training. The best part for me personally is that nothing on that site will break the bank. We're not talking $75, $80 rash guards or $250 gis. Everything that RevGear offers is super reasonably priced, which personally I love. To make it even sweeter, RevGear is offering a 10% discount on every purchase made on revgear.com when you use the promo code INSIDER10 at checkout. That's INSIDER10 for 10% off anything and everything you buy on the site. I will also drop a link in the video description below. Again, I cannot recommend their stuff enough. Everything I have from RevGear fits well, it's solidly made, and in my experience, holds up great in the long run. Again, head over to revgear.com. That's REVGEAR.com. Use the promo code INSIDER10 for 10% off any purchase made and get some quality gear at a phenomenal price. Now, back to the interview. Talk to me about that weight cut. Like, how difficult is it for you now? And then how much do you expect to be weighing on the night of the competition?
Weight cut's very, very simple, honestly. It's simple as far as like how it is to get the weight down and make it. It's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of time in the kitchen, a lot of time, extra time doing different things in the gym and different things that way. But, my goal has always been to be, getting on the plane with like, or when I get off the plane, I touch down in the city I'm in the day before the weigh-in. My goal is to be within was to be within, 6, 7 pounds. And lately I've been waking up in the morning of the weigh-in almost on weight. I mean, the last time I didn't even sit in a sauna to make weight. So I'm basically waking up on weight. I'm basically able to diet down the whole way. And I put on, it depends on a few things. Depends on how much like water I can push, honestly, is what I've come to find out. But as long as I can get back to like 170, I feel good.
And then, we talked about what Pato does well. What are your technical advantages? Where do you see you are better than him in this match?
Everywhere, to be honest. Yeah, to be honest, I just think I'm better than he is everywhere. Um, I know he has his problems, and I don't think it's necessarily something to say like anything full of it, but I think he probably thinks the same thing too. I mean, there'd be no reason he would move up to 155 and try and challenge for the title if he just fully believed in his heart that I was better than he was. There would be no point in that. That's probably not something he stands for, but I truly believe I'm better than he is. I truly believe I can put pressure and pace and technique on him that he hasn't felt um, maybe ever, and definitely not for a really long time. He's been competing against some good guys, but some guys who have a very different game and a very different approach to matches than I do. And I think when we have a match, that's going to be something he'll have a really hard time dealing with.
I love it. Um, is this a match that was offered to you? Or is this one you went out and sought out? Was this on your radar? Kind of how did the match come about?
He made it wasn't really on my radar, but he made a comment in interview, and he said how he would be interested in the match. The Mendez brothers made a post in all lowercase letters, um, saying that they would want him to go against me. So that kind of brought the idea. I said I was down for it. It was hard to find matches at 155 for guys who were at 155. So some things happen with matches leading up and events leading up that he was he was a choice. We were both down for the match. Obviously, we both had verbalized that we wanted to do that before. So it's kind of the match that just kind of fell into play a little bit. Just kind of it was something that was on both of our radars. Obviously, after he called me out, he's definitely a worthy opponent. So I make note of that. And he was calling me out, so it's obvious that he wanted the match too. So when the situation came up, it fell into both of our laps pretty much. We both said yes instantly, so we got the match going.
I love it. That's funny. I will say those Art of Jiu-Jitsu guys love the all lowercase long Instagram caption. So I like that you appreciate that
Yeah,
as well.
even if it's your name, it's a lowercase letter, huh?
No capital letters over at AOJ, I guess. So tell me, like, what's a perfect Dante Leon night look like for you? How do you get it done?
Tough to say. Perfect night. Perfect night. It's tough to say. It would be a quick submission, but it wouldn't be um for me, my style, how I want to win, how I envision myself winning is not like a quick submission or a quick thing. It's more of like a grinding you down, passing your guard, getting to your back, getting to a dominant position, cutting through your defenses and being able to get a win that is, unarguable. You can't really argue if I take your back and I choke you. You can't really argue if I, pass your guard multiple times and then submit you. Like I just beat you. You didn't get caught kind of thing. So that's always held a lot of weight with me. So that's always how I envision myself winning is in a dominant fashion, control and then submission. So that's how I see this match going. For it to be perfect, I don't know. I don't know. I've never fought Pato before. I have no real reference on how I think I would do with him necessarily. I don't think he has that for me either. But perfect world would be not getting um not getting caught up in any kind of guard of his or caught up in any kind of entanglement of his and being able to cut straight through it, get to a dominant position and finish him.
And assuming you get the win, like, do you have any, or even if you don't, I guess, do you have any interest in that 170 belt at who's number one? I think Mika still has it. I'm sure that's a match you want back. Or is it 155 the whole way? What are you thinking?
ADCCs this year, so 170 is going to need to be the focus after the first part of the year. I can't say as to what I really want to do, whether I want to like move up right away, whether I want to, stay here. But the biggest focus is this match. We can see what happens. A lot of things can happen behind the scenes. I mean, we're not even at the tournament yet. Guys can pull out, guys can get injured, matches can change, things like that. My biggest focus is Pato right now, but I've said from the very beginning I want to win as many belts and titles as I can. I want to build the deepest resume that I can, possibly do. I want to do the most that I can. So if I have an opportunity to go for the 170 belt, I would love to do that. I verbalized that before, and the questions always come out right when a match is like pretty tough. Like I had my first match at 155, and they were already kind of questioning about doing the two weight divisions. I already had that idea in my head, but I have super tough opponent to worry about. And then the next time is a title match. So, every single time the time comes around to talk about doing the double division thing, it always seems like I have a tougher and tougher opponent in front of me. So I really have to focus on that. I have to make sure that my weight cut goes right. I have to make sure that my training camp goes right and everything like that. We have a lot of time to get the 170 belt. We have a lot of time to get world titles in multiple divisions, things like that. So biggest focus is Pato for sure.
And you talked about, building an incredible resume, and I want to talk about your 2023. Like I said, like you were Grappling Insider's Grappler of the Year 2023, and you know, super heavyweight at Pans, tapping multiple ADCC vets. Like you did it all. Tell me what was what was going right for you in 2023? What seemed to be clicking across the board?
I think if you look at my career as a whole, I've always had success ever since I got my black. Like within 6 months of getting my black belt, I placed at Worlds. And then I never been out of the rankings since, or never been out of the medal rounds or placing since then. Um, I won Pans my first year. I won a number of tournaments. Within the first 6 months, I racked up like 15 to 20 wins at black belt. So I've always had quite a bit of success. I've just gradually gotten better and better and better as time has gone on. And 2023 was a good year because I put into motion a lot of the things that I had envisioned before. Um, in 2022, I got to get the ball rolling on a lot of different things. I built my own weight room. I have all the, best equipment that you can buy, not just like cheap wise. Like I have incredible equipment. I have an incredible gym. I have an incredible team. I have great training partners. It took time to build while, you're having this career that you have to reinvest in yourself and your gym, your tools, your things like this. That's how you can continue to be successful. And, those are the things at the beginning of my professional career. Those were the things that were lacking. And I made it a goal to improve on those things. And finally, in 2022, 2023, you saw just the machine running smoothly. So I don't see that there's going to be any differences. There may be some mishaps and falls along the way. I do my best to not have those, but they always dwell around between whether it's injury, whether it's poor performances, whether it's the world going crazy and COVID happening. I don't know. A lot of shit can happen, right? So the machine's running smooth. I'm doing my part and I'm doing everything I need to do. So I don't think there was any drastic change. I don't think there was any like, snap bolt of lightning kind of thing happening. I think it's just slow progression over time and using, my assets to the best of my ability, reinvesting in myself, reinvesting in my career, my business, and my gym to just be better.
Yeah, and I would say you look at your record in 2023, you are that machine, so to speak, is firing on all freaking cylinders, man. Um, Maybe kind of a loaded question here, but do you feel like you got the credit you deserve for what you did in 2023, or even the years like you mentioned, like 6 months into your black belt career, you'd racked up all these wins. Do you feel like you're getting the shine that you deserve for what you're doing in the sport?
In a way, like I've started to get it a little more, I feel like, but in a way, no. In a way, I don't get it the same way. And I think it comes down to two things. I'm not the greatest at I don't sell myself the best. I don't talk. that much or do those things. And even then when I do talk or I do stuff that is funny or stuff that, people might take as shit talk, I'm not really trying to shit talk. I'm just honestly saying how I feel, you know what I mean? So if I say something that's like funny or somebody quotes or somebody, gets people hyped up about shit talking, it's really not manufactured or fabricated with me. It's kind of um just me being me, And I don't know if that's caused me to go under the radar a little bit or what it is. I think a big thing, and I talk about this a lot, is a lot of people who come into the sport, we always have each year, I feel like we have a bigger influx of people who get involved in not just jujitsu, but like competing. Every year you see the numbers growing and the following growing, the attendance is growing, the number of tournaments grows. And I think these people come in and they look at the fresh faces, and that's who, they set their mind on, is like, he's the man, he's whatever. But they don't do their homework or they don't search around or research enough to see like, oh, this guy is only here for like 6 months, whereas like this guy who we don't hear too much about, he's been good for 10 years, and it takes a different kind of practitioner. It takes a different kind of athlete to be able to go back and study on their history a little bit, and it's kind of weird to think I'm not that old, but I'm kind of like a veteran in the game now, I'm not like the new kid anymore. It took me a little while to realize that like I'm a vet, I have experience in the game. I have as many years at black belt as some of these um competitors have training that are starting to break into the professional ranks, So I've been doing this shit a really long time. I know that there's people who have been training for probably like 3 years who don't know anything about me outside of like my 2022, 2023 performances, you know what I mean? So yeah, in a way, I feel like maybe, to answer the question, yeah, maybe a little bit still, but I don't know. I think the more performances I have, people are gonna, and like they already have, they get interested and they start to research you more and look up some things, and then that's how you get more fans. That's how you get more recognition and more things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, you brought it up like you're young and but you are a vet. Like looking at your BJJ Heroes profile before this interview, it was 5 years ago. I guess it's 2024 now. You won your first Nogi World title in 2019, and that's already like a while away. So, yeah, I would say you've been at the top for a hot second, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And each time that new influx of people comes in, it's more people who don't know about those things, who you could just pick a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu who are kind of sadly forgotten about because just that years and years of this new generation coming in is just taking over the sport because it just sheer numbers of people who are deciding to compete and taking jiu-jitsu a little more serious. It's growing worldwide. It's just more and more people who aren't knowing about two-time ADCC champs who retired in like 2012 or guys who won worlds multiple times because they're just not doing it today. So yeah, it is I wish everybody that starts out, I think everybody that starts out should have a little bit of a history lesson, and the history lesson now doesn't have to be Elio starting the martial art or anything like that. Yeah, you need to know about that, but if you want to be a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete, you need to know about, the shoulders you're standing on. You need to know about who built the house that you show up to compete in. So I think that is something that, the up and comers, the practitioners who are starting out, who are newer to the sport, can do to help the entire community.
Let me ask you this: Who are those guys for you? Who are the vets that you look at as like these are the guys whose shoulders I stand on now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, man. I mean, I always say that I'm like the first generation of people who can say they're like professional at jujitsu. They get paid to have a match, and not just paid to have a match and then like don't get paid again because the tournament goes away. Like I can do this year round for years and years to come, So that's different than anything that's ever been before this era of jujitsu, before the Eddie Bravo Invitational, before flow grappling, before events like Kasai and things like that. That never existed, right? So The guys who built and laid the foundation as far as competing is a lot of the older generation guys you see when you look them up who have so many world titles, have ADCC titles. You have Shanji, Hodger, Marcelo, Braulio, guys like this. Then you can go back another generation and you can see even more of those guys. Then you can go ahead of them and see even more of those guys. I mean, even in recent times, guys like Cobrinha, Mendes brothers, Hoffa mainly, guys like that, that's like a generation they were kind of coming out of the sport as we were coming into it at a high ranking. In 2017, I competed in my first gi worlds as a black belt. Actually, no, it's 2018 that I did. So when I got my black belt, Cobrinha was just a black belt world champion for the last time, retired. So like that's the generation before me. Tanquino, he's a generation before me. Guys like that who kind of got out of the sport, out of the sport as I started to come into the top ranks. And I think there's guys who compete nowadays who are like at my level who don't know a lot of these people. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the thing. I think you just have to educate yourself on that. You have to, I've always found it very interesting, but I think it's something that you should do your homework on.
For sure. I can appreciate that. Another kind of maybe loaded question. Do you feel like you get the credit you deserve on like kind of pound for pound discussions? A lot of times when in jiu-jitsu, we look at these pound for pound lists and there's like heavyweights at the top of it. You're a guy who actually like went out there and went up three weight classes, two weight classes at Nogi Pans, beat Devontae Johnson, super legit guy, Nogi world champion in his own right. Do you feel like you're getting the credit you deserve in terms of pound for pound rankings?
Like pound for pound rankings, I was at 2 and then 3. And I think I'm at like 3 or 4 now, but I'm in the top 5. And I always say about sports, if you have like a pound for pound list and there's 5 people, you can ask 100 different people, and those like 4 or 5 names are typically interchangeable. Yeah, when we talk about, I'll take hockey for example, because I'm Canadian, I'm a big hockey fan. You always have the names like Bobby Orr, Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, Lemieux. Those are like the 4 names that are kind of always in the top 5 or really close to it. And then depending on who you ask, whether he's a coach, historian, guy who played with them, they all have a different opinion of who's like the best. It's very rare that there's a time where somebody is definitively the best of the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? And Gordon definitely at one point was unarguably, there was no argument about it. He was the best jiu-jitsu player in the world. And his skill is probably still exactly where it was. He's probably still the best in the world, but he's not active. So it's hard to put him there all the time and say like he's like number one pound for pound. It's not that he's been inactive enough to take him off the list, I don't think, but even though he's the best jiu-jitsu athlete in the world, potentially of all time, activity counts as well. If you have somebody who's only competed 2 times and then they just move up the pound for pound list because they beat a couple good guys, I don't think that counts as much either. I think the guys who should be up there are up there. You have Gordon up there for what he did. I don't think he's going to be up there much longer because his inactivity. So then when he comes off the pound for pound list, you're going to have me, Marigali, Diego Pato, Micah Galvao. If you look at the 4 of us, we're all very active. We all beat high level competitors. We all go and win high level competitions. Nobody out of us 4 right there took like 3 matches last year or something like that. We all have double digits wins. We all have world titles. We all have pants titles, things like that. And we've won major tournaments against world champion opponents. So yeah, that's why I think we deserve to be up there.
Tell me about that decision to go up to super heavyweight for Nogi Pans. Like, what was the motivation there?
I have no idea, to be honest. It was just kind of a random thing. I was sitting down and I was thinking about it. I was talking to somebody and I said, I had a plan to do a match or something or an event at that time, and it kind of fell through. And I said, well, Pans was that weekend. I wasn't going to do Pans because of that event that was like either the same weekend or the weekend after. So I said, man, I'll do Pans. But I didn't really have a desire to fight middleweight or lightweight at Pans, like over and over again. My biggest thing now is that like now that I have my worlds and pans titles and I have multiple, I want to do different weight classes. So I was like, what weight class could I do that would be like kind of crazy? And I thought super heavy because at the time when I saw super heavy, it was the most stacked class. I mean, it had Lyra, it had Devontae, Elliot Kelly, um, Casio from Six Blades, who's pretty tough. He's not as well known, but really tough guy. Philippe Trovo, who's a world silver medalist, Pans champion. And there's somebody else in there too who is like super tough, but he ended up dropping out. But long story short, I thought it was the most stacked division of the tournament because not only was there like that, it was only 11 people. So it was going to be 3 fights against all guys who like either won or placed at Worlds as a black belt, pretty much. So I knew it was going to be really tough. I knew it would be something that could be like crazy. And I had the confidence in my jiu-jitsu enough that I thought I could win. So yeah, I just decided to do it, decided to sign up, and it happened.
It freaking rocked, man. It was cool. It was one of the cooler things I think in jiu-jitsu last year for sure. Um, and tell me, I might be off key here, but I feel like a lot of people, when you win, they're like, well, yeah, Dante won because he can deadlift X amount of pounds. He's so strong. Then you go up, you're against guys that are probably maybe stronger than you, right? Super heavyweights.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that kind of like knocks that argument down a lot? Is like, well, if he's so strong, how come he's beating guys that are way bigger than him?
I definitely do think it knocks down that argument. And it also to argue against people, you do have to be strong, I think, to move up in weight. You have to have some form of strength because even if you're just really good at jujitsu, if you're not strong, you're not going to be able to hold off people who are much bigger, stronger than you are. And also with my, how much I lift in the weight room is going to translate to better strength on the mat. What my numbers are in the training room are going to translate to better strength on the mat. But I still don't have that same like body to body feel that somebody does who's like 6'2", 6'3", 215 plus pounds. I just don't. Even though my numbers can be as good or better than any of those guys potentially, my strength on the mat is never going to be the same as even like Devontae's. Like Devontae is considerably stronger than me when we go like, body to body, grip for grip, just feel. He's going to be stronger than me. But in the gym, could I do more than him on a lot of different exercises? Yeah, probably. But I mean, he's also 215 pounds. Not only does that have its own challenges, like I said earlier about body styles and things like that and people's ability um to push. But I mean, when you talk about Pato's ability to get legs inside, you have to look at the ability of how Devontae can frame me away and how much longer his arms are, how much longer his legs are, what the problem with that is. I mean, it's going to be so hard to get up, get close to him, be able to take him down, be able to sweep him. It's all going to be so much harder because he's strong and he's fucking huge. So yeah, it had its own challenges too. But I think the more that I'm able to flip around in these weight classes, kind of like I've done since the beginning, I get good ideas of how to compete against the smaller. I get good ideas how to compete against guys my size. And now, finally, I think I have a good formula of how to compete against bigger guys. And I need it because I'm doing the open class, the Grand Prix Open for the IBJJF at the end of next month. So, that'll be another time that I get to test out more of my theories about being like the little guy in the division.
Man, I didn't know that. I don't think I was aware you were doing that, and that is awesome. I think already they got what Roberto Jimenez, Patrick Gaudio announced, other like big guys, really good guys. That's super exciting. Since we're talking about strength training, let's get into it. You're a guy who's known for like what you do in the weight room. Um, and I'm sure this is something you could talk about forever, but let's say I am a serious hobbyist or somebody who maybe competes a little bit in jiu-jitsu and I don't do any strength training. What would be your tips to like add that in to the routine while still doing jiu-jitsu?
I think the main thing to do is the main idea to have is that strength training is not something that you want to combine with jujitsu. You want it to be something that's separate from jujitsu. And I say that all the time. I tell people that all the time. I say that in every podcast I'm on. That's the thing I really want people to focus on. If you want to lift to be stronger for jujitsu, don't bring your gi in the weight room. Don't bring hip escapes and different jujitsu movements in the weight room. Lift to get stronger. There's a million different programs that work. There's a million different um, methodologies, ideologies around training that work. There's 5x5s that work. There's 40 set per week workouts that work really well. All kinds of things work really well. If you've never trained strength training before, anything you do that is, kind of proven, not anything that's kind of crazy wacky, is going to give you strength gains. Um, I think you need to do that. I think you need to lift, 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what your goals are, will determine your intensity, will determine your volume of your lifting. But if you're just kind of a guy starting out, you got to do something. There's a million different things you can do. There's a million different programs you can find and use um, that can help, that can get you stronger. And as soon as you get in the gym and even if you go in the gym and you have like a bodybuilding split where you just hit, chest and tries one day and back and bis another, then legs, then, shoulders and something else. I don't know, however you split it up 3 or 4 times a week. Eventually, you're going to start to get strong. You're going to start to see a difference in your body, and then you're going to need to adapt and change your training bit by bit to get better. And that's kind of how I started out from a young age, and that's how I landed on West Side.
And you mentioned this, just to be clear, like you're talking like what you don't want to see happen is guys that go in and like hook themselves up to a resistance band and do shrimps, or guys that are doing like triangles with weights on their legs, stuff like that. Why does that not work?
I think that's all just such a joke because it doesn't. Strength training is to get stronger, and that's such a specificity thing. If you have ankle weights on, that doesn't get your body stronger. It's like it's just frustrating when people have that sense of like, oh, you can squat, this much weight, but I can, one-legged or B stance deadlift this much. Like, who gives a shit? That's not a strength. That's not something that you use to like build maximum strength. You want to build maximum strength is through squat, bench, deadlift, and variations of those exercises. If you want to build unilateral strength, that's when you can start to do one-legged things. But those things are usually for reps. Those are usually accessory lifts that you use in conjunction, in support of your main lifts, which would typically be, on a leg day, you could be doing heavy squat, heavy front squat, box squat, deadlift, good morning, any variations of those different bars you want to use, a trap bar, elevated, deficit, deadlift, anything like this. And then once you get into your accessory work, then you can start to hit some things that are more specific to different types of strength, but not overly specific. Once you get overly specific, you start to lose the strength training aspect. There's no way that you can get stronger glutes from hip escaping with a band on you than you can from dumbbell step ups, than you could from farmers carries, than you could from squats, good mornings, deadlifts, leg press, things like this. That's going to get you legitimately stronger. That's going to build strong muscle fibers and strengthen your tendons. You're going to be able to apply your techniques with greater force and greater strength from that, not from hip escaping or, the ankle weight kind of thing or any of this stuff. When you're trying to get the this makes you strong, it also makes you flexible, it also makes you better at jujitsu. That's all, in my opinion, that's all bullshit. Strength training doesn't make you better at jujitsu. Jujitsu makes you better at jujitsu. So you're gonna strength train to get stronger, strength train to get in better shape, strength train to be healthier, and then do jujitsu to get better.
And then kind of changing gears a little bit, kind of an open-ended question here. You're a vet, you've been around jujitsu for a long time, especially at the super high level. What would you like to see different in jujitsu, whether it's the culture, whether it's how people train, whether it's whatever? What do you think we could be doing better as a community?
As a community, I think we need to study more and get more educated on our history and on the greats that we have. There's so much great jujitsu out there that a lot of people just don't ever look at because they look at everything that's on the surface. They look at what is when they come in, they open up Instagram or they open up Flow, maybe they open up the IBJJS page and they see, a 15-second video of somebody. They go on his Instagram, they look around, they do their kind of homework that way, kind of the same people use, TikTok to do their history lessons nowadays instead of actually opening up a textbook and reading or actually going online digging through, nowadays it's probably a prehistoric way to do it, but going on YouTube and searching people's names who you saw on like the world championship result. Hey, this guy won, 4 world titles before 2007. Maybe I should look up who this guy is and see what he does. I'm not saying that doing that is going to change your life, but it's going to give you a pretty solid kind of understanding on where everything came from. And I think that can change everybody's idea and philosophies through jujitsu. I think it can impact it positively. I want to see less of want to see jujitsu be less clicky, you know. I'm talking about the competition scene. I don't see anything really that bad with it. I think it's going really well. Honestly, there's a lot of good guys out there. There's a lot of good guys coming up. The female ranks are doing really well. There's a lot more females at a high level competing as compared to like when I started, there would be like 2 brown belts and 2 black belts in a lightweight women's division. They had to combine brown and black belts. And nowadays you have a couple dozen women in some of the divisions. So I think they're booming as well. The kids is booming more than anything, specifically between IBJJF and ADCC competitions. So I just want to see the culture be less clicky amongst the people coming in. There's nothing worse than when you go to a jujitsu gym or you walk into your class and there's like little cliques, there's like little people who, people over there, people over here, kind of things like that. And gyms just have a way of getting clicky, man. It's kind of a thing that happens with jujitsu, kind of a thing that happens with CrossFit. It's the biggest thing I try and do is keep my gym kind of drama free and there's always going to be little groups. There's always going to be groups of people who they want to do their own thing and they want to do whatever, and that's fine. But you just can't build this environment where people think they're different or they're superior because they do jujitsu. This is an environment where people need to come in and just enjoy and just train. That's the thing. I fell in love with jujitsu because I went to a jujitsu class not knowing what to expect, and I had a great experience. I had a guy who took me to the side and showed me some basics, and he made a great experience for me. So, that was like my first taste of it. And that was where I love jujitsu, and sometimes there's some gyms that you can go into or you hear about people going into and you just wish their experience would have been a little bit different.
Yeah, man, I think you're onto something there. And I will say, like, I don't know how connected you are to like kind of the everyday hobbyist, but there is that like dynamic. I think if you talk to a lot of hobbyists, they're gonna say, "Oh, I had a bad experience because this black belt thought he was better than everybody else just because he has a black belt." So I went to like I think it's slowly being weeded out, that clickiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is too, for the most part now, because nowadays you can't really pretend to be a badass anymore because everybody can just Google anything you said you ever did. And there's receipts pretty much on everything. So you can't pretend to be like super superior just because you have a black belt nowadays. Somebody can go on Instagram or go on Google and search up and pull up names of thousands of jujitsu black belts. So you're not a badass really anymore. So it is starting to get weeded out. But a lot of this behavior, owning a gym is something my partner and I and my friends and I always talk about is this stuff comes from the top down. Shit rolls downhill. So, when you have these instructors who are, like you said, they think they're, the highest level, they're this, they're that, and they use that kind of energy, that kind of facade to mask over shitty character, shitty ethics in a gym. That's when you have problems. And when you have a gym where you just lead a gym that you're, very simple. We're here to teach jujitsu. We're here for you to have fun. We're here to help you out. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to, you're not here to vent about your day. You're not here to beat up people. You're not here to compete with anybody. You're not here to argue with people, because that's how my instructors show up. That's how I show up to the gym. We just show up, smile on our face, ready to teach jujitsu, ready to train, see everybody have a good time, see everybody learn, work hard, and then, we hang out, we pack up, we go home. It's not a social club. It's not a retreat for anybody. It's not some secret getaway or any kind of, too cool club like some of the gyms get to be. So I truly believe that. I think it goes from the top down. And like you said, there's not big of an opportunity now from the black belts and the people at the top to, bullshit their way through anymore. You can't really lie about this stuff anymore, man. There's too many people who are at the rank of black belts. So you can't really be an ethereal being anymore, just having 10 years of experience or just because you're a black belt.
I love it. I love it. All right, man. Well, that was all I had for you today. If there's anything else you want to add, go for it. Otherwise, I'm gonna get you out of here.
Well, I would like to thank you guys for the award. Grappling Insider is very nice to see. Always appreciated. I received awards from several publications in the past, but like that's the best one to receive, in my opinion, is Grappler of the Year. Best of the best. I'm honored by that. Thank you. I know we've done these before, so thank you for your time. And that's pretty much it. Just encourage everybody to tune in on February 9th for my match. Who's number one? Diego Pato. It's a great card. Honestly, I think all the who's number one cards have been good, but I think this one's quite special. You have Micah's on the card, Pato and I are on the card, Victor Hugo and Nicky Rod. That's a match that's been a long time coming. They've actually competed against each other a couple of times before, so that'll be a good one to see again. Female title match on the card. Jacob Couch, my teammates, on the card. There's a great undercard. It hasn't been announced yet, but I know a couple of the names, and that's going to be a banger too. So that one's free on YouTube, and then the rest is behind the Flow wall. So hopefully all you guys can tune in. If you're not subscribed to Flow, I hope you log on for at least a month and check out this event.
Yeah, you guys heard him. It is a banger of an event. All right. Dante, thanks so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
See you, Ben.
See ya.